Do you ever feel like your cheap tools and accessories are holding you back? I did too. That's why I built this sliding crosscut table that's a total game changer for my workflow in the shop. Woodworking beginners on a budget don't need to sacrifice quality. You can have pro-level gear without breaking the bank. I share how I made this insane table saw accessory for a fraction of the cost. I didn't stop there. I made sure it met 3 crucial requirements: rock solid accuracy every time, effortless setup, and a compact design that won't eat up your workspace. By the end, you'll know how to upgrade your saw and take your woodworking to the next level. What if I told you that this pro-level accessory cost less than 200 Australian dollars? A sliding crosscut table is like a super-powered miter gauge. It attaches to your table saw and lets you make precise, repeatable cuts on large pieces of wood. The table slides smoothly across your saw, giving you more control and accuracy than a standard miter gauge. Some high-end models can cost over 3 grand. But we are going to build our own for much less. Our sliding crosscut table has a few key parts. It needs a sturdy base. We are using linear guide rails for smooth sliding action, a solid fence system for straight cuts, and a way to easily attach and detach the fence. But now we have cut the parts for our box on the top. Very important, the sides are cut a millimeter shorter than the height of these guide rails. So once the table is mounted on the top, it doesn't rub on the sides and it has still a smooth action. Let's dive into the heart of our crosscut table, the guide rail box. It's where precision meets ingenuity. And I've got a trick up my sleeve that might surprise you. We're creating a home for the rails. That will make our table slide smooth as butter. But here's the thing, we've got to be super careful about how we put it all together. First up, we need to make sure those guide rails are perfectly parallel to the table saw blade and each other. It's like trying to draw 2 straight lines without a ruler. Tricky stuff, but I've got a trick for you. Since I'm mounting this to the side of my table saw, I'm assuming the side tables are parallel to the main table. Fingers crossed. So I'm measuring one of the guide rails to have the exact same distance from the side wall of the box. Then I screw it down so it doesn't move anymore. Now for the second rail. I put it in place and measure the distance between the 2 rails. This is where things get a bit hairy. We have to do some measurements because we have to figure out how far the fence needs to move forward to go past the blade. But we also want to make sure our cutting capacity is as big as possible. That's why I've got those linear guide rail blocks really close to each other. It's like in every man's life. Every inch counts. So next we have to figure out how to mount the table onto the guide rail box. Here's my genius idea. To mark where I need to drill the holes for the blocks, I use epoxy pigment. Yeah, you heard right. Pigments. I smear some on the blocks, press down the table, and boom, instant markings. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done. I actually drilled the holes a tiny little bit oversized so that the guide rail blocks can tilt a little bit. This allows a little bit of play if I'm not 100% accurate with my holes. I only screw down 1 screw on one side of the second guide rail. Why? Because when we run the table through for the first time, it will pull that rail into perfect alignment with the first one. It's like magic, but with screws and wood instead of a wand. Yeah, a wand is wood too, I guess. Anyway, after that first run, we can screw down all the rails into their final spot. Building this box isn't just about making a neat container for our rails. It's about creating a foundation for precision. Every cut we make with our finished sliding table will depend on how well we set up these rails. It's like building a house. If the foundation is wonky, everything else will be too. So let's talk about the materials for a sec. I'm using 12mm plywood and 2x4s for the whole construction. The only expensive bit were the guide rails. So all up, I'm using half a sheet of plywood, 2 2x4s and the 2 guide rail systems, which brings the total cost of this project to around 100 to 120 Australian kangaroos. It might seem like a lot of fuss for a box, but trust me, this little powerhouse is going to take your woodworking game to the next level. And the best part, you build it yourself, saving a ton of money in the process. Now that's what I call a win-win. Now we have our guide rail box sorted. You'd think the hard part is over. But here's where most hit a wall and where a little out of the box thinking can save the day. When I was researching this project, I noticed something interesting. Almost everyone who built this similar crosscut table had the same problem. Getting the sliding table perfectly flush with the table saw. It seemed like a real headache. But I came up with a super simple solution that anyone can do. My secret weapon? Leveling feet. Those little adjustable feet that you might have used already in one of your furniture pieces. When it was time to mount the table, I just put it next to the table saw and started adjusting. I had to twist each foot up and down, checking the alignment over and over, but after about 20 minutes of tinkering, I had it perfect. The table was perfectly flush with the saw. This simple trick saved me hours of frustration. No need for complex shims or trying to get the mounting perfect on the first try. With the leveling feet, I could make tiny adjustments until everything lined up just right. It's a flexible solution that can work for anyone, no matter how their workshop is set up. But I didn't stop there. As I was getting ready to mount the table to the saw, I had another thought. Why waste the space underneath? It seemed like a perfect spot for some extra storage. So I cut some more plywood and made 2 shelves to fit under the table. They are going to hold the removable fence and some other table saw jigs that I plan to make in the future. It's like giving my new tool its own toolbox. These shelves do more than just provide storage though. They actually make the whole structure stronger and more sturdy. It's like turning a wobbly card table into a rock solid workbench. So now get ready for the fence system that will make your old miter gauge weep with jealousy. We are about to turn a simple concept into a game changer for your workshop. But creating a reliable fence isn't as easy as it looks. You need something that's super straight, won't move when you're cutting, and stays perfectly square to the blade. It's like trying to draw a perfectly straight line, freehand. Tricky stuff. But I've got a plan. We are using a hefty aluminium L bracket as the backbone of our fence. I've cut up 2 identical plywood strips and I laminated these strips together. And I made sure they were flat as a pancake by putting them on a big steel tube. This combo gives us strength and hopefully accuracy. Next up, I had to figure out where to mount the fence. It needs to go past the blade for safety, but I also wanted to get the most crosscut capacity possible. Now here's where it gets tricky. How do we make the fence removable and accurate without having to reline it every time we use it again? My solution: threaded insert and some star knobs I got from Amazon. It's like creating a high-tech Lego set for your saw. I started by screwing the aluminium part into the table with only 1 screw. Then I used the square to line it up as best as I could with the blade. But that's not good enough for us. So I broke out the 5-cut method and some of my spacers to get that fence perfectly square. I'm not gonna lie, this part took forever. But I didn't give up until I got the tolerance down to about 0.04 millimeters. That's 2 1,000 inches, which is good enough for me. Once I had that dialed in, I screwed in a 2nd screw to fix the fence in place. Then I drilled holes the exact size of my star knob bolts. After that, I took off the fence and set the threaded inserts. Now we have an accurate and removable fence. But there's one big problem with this solution. Ever had a project going sideways only to realize it was actually a blessing in disguise? Buckle up, because our fence system just took an unexpected turn. So the setup works actually really well already. The sliding mechanism works super well. It's super smooth. It goes back and forth. One issue that we ran into, like these aluminium wings that I have here, they are not 100% straight, so I had to dip them a little bit, which is not a problem. I'm gonna replace those ones in a later stage. The fence works really well, but it's very heavy. So I took it off right now. The problem with the fence is once I pull it out, it dips this direction and it gets basically caught here. So there are a couple of solutions that we can do now. I tried already to put some counterweights on it, which is also serving as an extra platform where like long stock can sit. But the problem is I have to put so much counterweight on top of it that the whole fence gets heavy. So when I pull it out all the way, the pushing forward motion is not as smooth anymore. So if there's a piece of stock on top of it as well, the motion is going to be even more jarring. The solution I come up with, what we're testing now, is I got this, an aluminum fence, and it's much lighter. Now we have to take off this L bracket. I'm going to shorten this L bracket because this fence here is very rigid anyway, so this doesn't go anywhere. The plywood would have been like a little bit flexible, but this aluminum is not. So we can still use the fixtures that we have in place. We don't need to change anything there. And then we see how we go with the 5-cut method, and we can still adjust it from there. So here's what happened. Our initial fence design was way too heavy. We used 12mm ply for the tabletop and it just couldn't handle the weight. The table started to dip and to bend, not exactly what you want for precise cuts. But you know what? This setback turned out to be a good thing. I decided to switch to an aluminium fence and it's so much better. It wasn't expensive at all and it looks way nicer. Plus, it has T-tracks, which means I can use any stop block system I want. Talk about an upgrade. Now I did run into a small issue when I was setting up the threaded inserts. My drill wandered a tiny little bit and the fence ended up slightly off. When I mounted the new fence with the blocking behind, it was out of square. But here's where the new design really shines. Because of those T-tracks on the back of the fence and how I mounted it with star knobs, the aluminium fence was super easy to adjust. No more struggling to get things lined up just right. To get everything square, I used a clever little trick I learned from YouTube. I grabbed some playing cards and used them as shims. It's amazing how such a simple thing can make such a big difference. This time squaring up the fence with the 5-cut method was much faster. It still took a couple of tries, but it was way quicker than before. This whole experience really shows why it's so good to be flexible with your designs. Sometimes your first idea doesn't work, but instead of getting frustrated, you can use it as a chance to make something even better. Our sliding crosscut table is looking pretty sweet, but we can still make it better. Let's add some final touches to make it safer and a little cooler. First, I laminated the top with a black laminate. This makes the table look awesome, but it's not just for show. The laminate reduces friction when the table is in a fixed position, so the workpieces can slide really smoothly over the table saw. This gives you a better control and more accurate cuts. Next, we need to fix a safety issue. Right now the fence goes right up to the blade, which is great for precise cuts, but when you make a cut, the waste piece doesn't get pushed past the blade. This can be dangerous because it might get caught and kick back at you. To solve this, I used our trusty star knobs again. I glued up a piece of plywood and mounted it on the back of the fence. This serves two purposes. One, it provides zero clearance and it pushes the offcuts past the blade for safety. And don't worry, it doesn't affect the accuracy at all. I made sure that everything is square and level with the aluminium fence. These final touches make a big difference on how the table works and how safe it is to use. The laminated top improves the friction, while the zero clearance fence extension makes cutting smoother and safer. By adding these details, we have created a sliding crosscut table that's accurate, efficient, and more enjoyable to use. Building your own tools and accessories teaches you a lot about your craft. You understand how things work from the inside. This project showed us how to be precise, solve problems, and think outside the box. I'm super stoked on how this table turned out. It's already making my life in the workshop so much better. I've got some insane ideas on how to improve it even better, which I will probably share in a future video, so don't forget to subscribe. But now it's your turn to upgrade your own tools. Start small if you need to, but push yourself a little. With some effort, you can make tools that work great without spending a lot of money. You might be surprised at what you can do. Now that you have learned how to do a small shop upgrade, check out this miter saw station build that has one feature that makes it fit in every size workshop. And as always, I appreciate you and I see you next time.